Over the years, I've heard a lot about Thomas Astruc, the creator of Miraculous, and his controversial behavior on Twitter. It wasn't until I downloaded the app myself that I really began to see how questionable some of that behavior can be. And for years now, the debate surrounding Chloé has probably been the show's biggest and most persistent controversy. So it came as no surprise that much of the discussion I've seen Thomas engage in centers on her. Honestly, despite Chloé being an important character and a major point of debate within the fandom, I didn't pay much attention to her until recently, which is pretty ironic considering that as of season 6, she's barely present anymore. So it doesn't really matter anymore, but the main reason for that is that I only recently started taking the show seriously. I was a much more casual viewer before. That said, joining Twitter, or X, really opened my eyes to just how defensive Thomas becomes whenever Chloé is brought up. He frequently argues with Chloé fans, often because their interpretations of her character are so drastically different from his. It stood out to me enough that it made me want to finally look deeper into the issue. To better explain where I'm coming from, this investigation really began when people on X started claiming that Chloé was groomed by Hawkmoth. Thomas responded by sidestepping that argument and instead posing a question of his own. Why did he target her specifically and not someone else? When I first saw that response, I was confused, probably much like many others. But after gathering more context, I think I now understand what he was trying to say. That said, I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. After seeing Thomas's responses and learning more about how he's blocked fans simply for holding different opinions than him, I wanted to understand what really went wrong, and ultimately, what is Chloé's character meant to be? To summarize, Chloé begins the series as a standard bully archetype. She's pretty, rich, and full of herself, and she targets the main character and competes with her for Adrian's attention. While Chloé is unpleasant in season 1, she isn't yet the overwhelmingly cruel and annoying character she becomes in later seasons, someone who would eventually be completely unlikable. That changes in season 2, specifically in Style Queen, when Chloé's mother, Audrey, is introduced. This episode is the first time the show provides real insight into Chloé's character. We learn that she deeply admires her mother and actively tries to imitate her, and the resemblance between them is clear. Audrey embodies extreme arrogance and entitlement, stepping on others to get what she believes she deserves. Despite, or maybe because of, these traits, Chloé sees her mother as someone worthy of admiration and tries to replicate that behavior. Chloé's admiration for Audrey is so strong that it manifests as what I would argue is one of her earliest genuine expressions of love, her attempt to give her mother a gift. But Style Queen also makes it clear that Audrey doesn't truly care about Chloé or her family. She shows little interest in spending time with them, struggles to remember Chloé's name, and outright dismisses the idea of Chloé returning to New York with her.
As the editor of Style Queen, you spend a lot of time in New York. It must be nice to be with your family for a change here in Paris.
She's very happy to see me.
Chloé, what is this?
We should really spend more time together. What if I went back to New York with you?
Don't be ridiculous, Casserole. Chloé.
This dynamic becomes even more explicit in Queen Wasp, when Audrey praises Marinette and offers to take her to New York instead of Chloé. It's what Chloé wants most, her mother's acceptance and love.
I'm taking her because she's exceptional, Chloé.
I'm exceptional too!
The only exceptional thing about you, my dear, is your mother.
Chloé's warped sense of love and admiration stems from the scraps of attention Audrey gave her and the arrogance Audrey modeled. Even though Audrey fails her as a parent, Chloé continues to love and admire her. More accurately, Chloé wants to be loved back. She believes that if she becomes like her mother, exceptional, admired, untouchable, then her mother will finally accept her. This explains much of Chloé's behavior. Her cruelty, entitlement, and obsessional status all stem from a desire to be admired in the same way her mother is. And unfortunately, that desire manifests in the same toxic ways Audrey's personality does. Thomas Astruc has stated that Chloé was always meant to be irredeemable, but I don't believe the show itself supports that claim. Style Queen directly contradicts it. In that episode, Chloé actively helps Ladybug by distracting her akumatized mother so Adrian can be saved. This is significant because validation, especially from her mother, is Chloé's greatest motivator. For her to act against Audrey, even briefly, to help someone else, shows that she is capable of putting others' needs before her own. That moment is altruistic. It is Chloé risking the very thing she wants most. By the end of Style Queen, it also becomes clear that Chloé was always intended to become the Miraculous holder. Her color scheme, yellow and black, parallels the Miraculous itself. just as Alia's orange color palette aligns with Reina Rouge. This makes her eventual role as Queen Bee feel intentional, which raises the question, why build her up as a hero only to take that away? Chloe's downfall is credited to Hawkmoth's manipulation, but her downfall goes deeper than that. Chloe became the motivation Gabriel needed to continue his path. In Style Queen, Gabriel says that Audrey was meant to be his masterpiece, someone whose arrogance and cruelty he admired.
I'm sorry. It took some time, I know. But today, I can feel my prey has more malice in her than anyone I've ever akumatized before. She will be my masterpiece.
When Gabriel's plan fails, he gives up. But Chloe succeeds where Audrey didn't. Gabriel sees more to her than just arrogance and brattiness. He sees vulnerability and potential. This reignites his drive to be Hawkmoth. When Chloe transforms with the Be Miraculous, her goal is to prove that she can be just as powerful and admired as Ladybug. This makes sense, because Ladybug has been someone Chloe has idolized since the very beginning, much like her mother. Chloe admires Ladybug not primarily for her good deeds as a hero, but for how loved and admired she is by the people of Paris. To Chloe, admiration equals worth. That's why her actions as Queen Bee are deeply flawed and undeniably selfish. She nearly causes a train crash just to prove herself as a real hero. But this recklessness stems from her need to be seen as exceptional, especially in her mother's eyes. Power goes to her head, and she misuses it, mirroring the corrupt upper-class environment she was raised in. Her father abuses political power, and her mother abuses social power.
A superhero turned supervillain can only be exceptional.
Gabriel was the first person to recognize Chloe's potential, but only in his own twisted way. He calls her cruelty and entitlement exceptional, because those are the same traits he sees in himself. That's why he calls her a fallen hero.
Fly away, my little Akuma, and evilize this fallen hero.
Tragically, she grows into that title.
Ladybug and Cat Noir don't want you as their friend.
Just like with her mother, Chloe is rejected and abandoned, this time by Ladybug and Cat Noir. Hawkmoth steps in to fill that void, telling her exactly what she wants to hear, that she is exceptional. He manipulates her by nurturing her worst traits while ignoring her capacity for good.
I don't even care if you don't give me your Miraculous. My wasps will paralyze you, and I'll simply take them myself.
Nice work, Queen Wasp. You truly are exceptional. I knew it.
Chloe becomes the perfect victim because her worldview already aligns with his. The Be Miraculous, with the power of subjection, reflects this dynamic, both how Chloe dominates others and how she herself has been emotionally dominated her entire life. The similarity between them, the power of subjection, is funny because it actually ends up being the same ultimate power he uses to defeat Ladybug in the end.
According to me, Chloe just clearly demonstrated that there is nothing exceptional about her.
In the end, it's Cat Noir who first truly validates Chloe's feelings. With encouragement from both him and Ladybug, Chloe seems to genuinely understand the harm she's caused and offers a sincere apology. The episode closes with Marinette helping Chloe confront her mother.
Why don't you love me, Mom?
All Chloe wanted was acceptance, both from her mother and from the world, expressed through admiration. Her arrogance is not the cause of her pain, but the symptom of it. Even the Miraculous she wields reflects this cycle. Her desire to subject others is rooted in her own deeply internalized sense of worthlessness, shaped by emotional neglect from her mother. So, in Maledictator, it becomes clear that becoming Queen Bee has gone to Chloe's head. She continues to roleplay the persona long after losing the Miraculous, clinging to the power and identity she briefly held.
You're all ridiculous! Utterly ridiculous! Seriously, she'll never change.
The episode raises the question that Thomas Astruc uses as his argument. Can Chloe actually change? Because according to him, she was never truly redeemed at all. So in hindsight, that doubt seems present from the start.
I love you, Chloe, but you're asking too much of me this time. I'm only the mayor.
Precisely. What's the use of this stupid sash you're wearing if you can't actually use power?
The episode also reinforces one of the show's recurring themes, corruption and power. When Chloe questions her father's role as mayor, if he can't use his authority to get what she wants, it reveals her worldview. Power exists to serve one's own interests, even if it harms others. However, the episode doesn't present Chloe as just evil.
Chloe's a total brat to everyone. She was useless anyway.
Nobody's useless, not even Chloe. She left angry and unhappy. I can't celebrate that.
When Chloé leaves Paris, Adrian, out of empathy in their long-standing friendship, refuses to vilify her like everyone else. He points out that she left angry and unhappy, and that's essentially what everyone was celebrating. His perspective suggests that there is still humanity in Chloé, that her vulnerability is what makes her sympathetic and real. Marinette even acknowledges this herself, wondering if Adrian might be right, if Chloé isn't just a brat, but someone capable of suffering and weakness, just like her. Later, when Ladybug finally confronts Chloé, Chloé admits that Marinette isn't the real problem. The problem is that she feels unwanted, purposeless, and alone.
You can fix your own messes if that's what you want. You too can serve a purpose, but you have to want to.
I do want to.
Before Ladybug offered Chloé the Be Miraculous, Chloé didn't know yet that Ladybug would give her the Be Miraculous. For someone who has always acted out of selfish desire, this moment feels different. It feels like Chloé wanted a genuine opportunity to redeem herself. This also reframes Chloé's desire to leave Paris. It's not simply loneliness driving her away, it's the fact that she feels powerless and unrespected. Her status means nothing if it doesn't earn her admiration. And this is where the writing becomes inconsistent. Maledictator presents Chloé as deeply broken and yearning for something pure. It gives context for her behavior and suggests meaningful growth. Yet Thomas Astruc insists that Chloé was never meant to be redeemable, that her intentions were always evil, and I just don't see that. By the end of the episode, Chloé returns to Be Miraculous, smiling and understanding that she can't keep it. She got a glimpse of what she always wanted, and that seemed to be enough.
Do you really think she's got what it takes to be a superhero?
Yes, I do. Ladybug has made me a better Marinette, so perhaps being Queen Bee will make her a better Chloé too.
Marinette even defends her, explaining that being Ladybug made her a better Marinette, and that being Queen Bee could give Chloé the chance to discover her own courage and become better too. The episode ends with small but meaningful growth. Chloé picks things up herself instead of ordering her butler around.
It was really cool of you to put this party together for Chloé.
Well, she did save Paris, so she just might be able to save herself too. Am I right?
So Maledictator left the door to redemption wide open. That isn't an interpretation, it's what the episode shows. Which makes it crazy that Thomas Astruc says that Chloé fans imagined a redemption arc that was never there. Because he can't blame the audience for thinking this was a redemption when it clearly looks like and is a redemption. By the season 2 finale, it genuinely felt like all of that season's build-up was leading toward the creation of a full superhero team. One capable of standing against an entire akumatized army. And Chloé's Queen Bee arc clearly fits into that trajectory. Her inclusion had to be intentional. She was positioned as a legitimate member of the team, meant to fight alongside the others on what was framed as a monumental day. If I didn't already know Thomas Astruc's stance on Chloé, I would assume the purpose of her arc was character development, building her up into a true hero and a genuine member of the superhero team. And honestly, that was good writing, at least until it was undone. In the season 2 finale, Queen Bee fights until the very end. She holds her own, fulfills her role, and is exactly what a hero is supposed to do. In season 3's Miraculous, Chloé is still waiting for Ladybug to give her the Be Miraculous back. When Ladybug doesn't, Chloé is shown sadly looking at a photo of the two of them together, which shows how much she valued her connection to Ladybug and what she believed was a real friendship. Ladybug's decision to delay telling Chloé the truth, that she wouldn't be getting the Miraculous back, was a mistake. The longer that conversation was postponed, the more Chloé's sadness and resentment had time to grow. If Ladybug had been honest sooner, it's possible events might not have escalated the way they did. What's also important is that Hawkmoth had been trying to recruit Chloé for a long time. Regardless of what Thomas Astruc says outside the show, it's clear that Chloé was deliberately targeted. That prolonged manipulation plays a major role in her eventual relapse. If not for Hawkmoth's influence, Chloé could have remained on the good side.
Miraculous Ladybug! But I did the magic dance! Ladybug wouldn't have forgotten all about me!
One of Chloé's major flaws is not wanting to be abandoned or unaccepted, something that comes from her relationship with her mother. So her fear of Ladybug's abandonment most definitely comes from the abandonment she underwent with her mother. When Sabrina tries to comfort her, Chloé lashes out by belittling her instead. To me, this looks like a coping mechanism. Feeling small and insignificant pushes Chloé to tear others down so she doesn't have to sit with her own pain.
Miraculous. Your friend has rejected you because she's only interested in other people's powers.
Chloé values power above all else because power represents worth in her world. It's what she believes makes someone important. What she's always wanted for herself. Now, one, like Thomas Astruc, could argue that Chloé is irredeemable, and I understand why. But one thing can't be denied. Chloé, one of the cruelest characters in the series, was the first person to ever resist an akumatization. At the time, we didn't even know that was possible. That moment showed incredible mental strength and a genuine loyalty to Ladybug. By this point, it also becomes clear that Chloé doesn't actually want to be like Ladybug, which was my previous interpretation, that she admired and hence wanted to be like Ladybug due to the amount of admiration she had. What Chloé wants now is Ladybug's validation, just as she's always wanted with her mothers.
I don't want to be Ladybug. There's only one Ladybug, and she isn't me. I am
Queen Bee?
Where did she go? Ladybug's going to think I'm incompetent.
And when Chloé does transform, she proves her competence. She comes closer than any other hero to reclaiming the Peacock Miraculous. That alone also demonstrates how capable she actually is as a hero. In the end, Chloé returns the Miraculous quickly and without protest. She seems to understand Ladybug's explanation and doesn't appear corrupted by power at that point. Her choice feels genuine. However, she's clearly hurt. She tells Sabrina she doesn't want to roleplay as Ladybug anymore, gives away the costume, and tears up the photo of her and Ladybug together. This could be read as resentment over losing the Miraculous, but it could also be Chloé trying to emotionally distance herself, accepting that she can't be Queen Bee anymore and that her closeness with Ladybug is over. I think either interpretation could be true, but this is not yet a clear sign of Chloé's hatred for Ladybug. In Heart Hunter, Chloé is still shining the Queen Bee signal into the sky, hoping Ladybug will let her use the Miraculous once again. This makes it clear that she never fully accepted Ladybug's refusal the first time. Chloé is stubborn. She clings tightly to what she wants and can't let go.
I don't love anyone.
Of course you do, darling.
You love yourself.
Chloé places herself above others, and in doing so, she hurts people. But there's also vulnerability in that kind of self-love. Choosing yourself so aggressively means there's something missing. The love of others. When no one else loves you, you need to love yourself.
Chloé Bourgeois. Rejections hurt. Your talents deserve to be recognized. Ladybug and Cat Noir's reign has gone on long enough. It's time for Paris to have a new queen. And the queen on my chessboard is you.
You're Ladybug's greatest fan. You've helped her. You've trusted her. And what has she done for you in return?
Nothing. She couldn't care less about me.
Hawkmoth's manipulation of Chloé in this episode is brutal. This is exactly why Miraculous holders are told not to reveal their identities. If the Butterfly Miraculous holder found out, he can exploit you. While I don't think Gabriel is the best manipulator, compared to Lila, his manipulation of Chloé is the best demonstration of his manipulation and cruelty. He had been targeting her ever since Season 2, after she transformed publicly and exposed herself. Just as he once saw Audrey as his masterpiece and style queen, he saw that same potential in Chloé. He offered her exactly what she wanted at exactly the right moment, twisting her admiration for Ladybug and her need for validation into anger and resentment. Chloé's greatest flaw here isn't being evil, it's fragility. Season 4 is a point of no return. Chloé doesn't just relapse, she fully embraces cruelty.
These shoes are life, and in life there are winners and losers. Winners have their perfect little feet in these shoes, while losers get crushed under the sole.
To Chloé, superiority justifies cruelty. She reinforces this mindset when she tells Zoe that the suffering of people like Marinette exists for their entertainment.
Now, a patsy is there to suffer for your own entertainment. If you're good enough, a patsy can last you a lifetime. I have an old one, but it hasn't been working so well ever since I became a superhero. I got too soft. Either you walk over people, or I walk over you. Either you're proud of who you are, proud to be a part of my family, and walk in my footsteps, or you clear out!
Chloé even frames dominance as survival, insisting that you either walk over others or be walked over yourself. This mirrors the philosophy Gabriel expresses in Pretension, a twisted belief that cruelty is necessary to protect yourself. In both cases, this worldview likely stems from having once been powerless, of having been stepped on themselves. From this point forward, Season 4 through Season 6, Chloé's no longer written with nuance. She's reduced to pure antagonism, stripped of the complexity and vulnerability that once made her interesting and likable.
You should always do everything in your power to help people, and we all hoped that Chloé would become a better person. Ladybug reached out to her, Miss Bustier reached out to her, so did Adrian and so did I. You all reached out to her.
This proves how big your hearts are. And yet, Chloé remained the same. Why? Because as far as she's concerned, having a big heart is a weakness to be exploited. Chloe already thinks she's better than all of us, so don't be fooled.
So far, this is where Chloe's arc ends. I think Chloe's purpose is meant to show the idea that some people are inherently evil, that no matter how much kindness or support they're given, they cannot change and will always revert to their worst tendencies. And in Chloe's case, she was shown kindness by her classmates, by Ladybug and Cat Noir, and by her father and sister. None of them were able to bring out the light in her. Instead, it was Hawkmoth who succeeded in drawing out her darkness, suggesting that the darkness within her was stronger than the good. According to this, Chloe was never meant to be redeemed. That said, even if this was the intention, I think it was poorly executed. The storyline could have been handled far more carefully and thoughtfully, and overall, Thomas Astruc could have been much more sensitive in both the writing and how this message was communicated. The show itself, through specific dialogue and Thomas's own statements, makes it clear that Chloe was never truly on the path toward redemption and was always meant to represent true evil. While I personally disagree with this, it becomes interesting when you consider that Hawkmoth wields the butterfly Miraculous, butterfly symbolizing transformation and change. Chloe becomes one of the clearest examples of his manipulation. She was one of his primary targets and she embodied resistance to change itself. In that sense, I find her very interesting. Someone tied to the Miraculous of change who refused to change. I know the butterfly Miraculous is actually the Miraculous of transmission, but the symbolism is still there. After looking at this from every angle as I can, I honestly feel like I understand both sides of the debate. I understand Chloe fans, and I also understand Thomas Astruc's intent, even if I think that intent was poorly executed. Chloe fans are valid for feeling that she was mishandled, that she didn't deserve the narrative treatment she received, and that her character arc was butchered. At the same time, I can see what Thomas Astruc wanted to do with her character, and I understand how frustrating it must feel for everyone on the internet to be against you and claim to know better than you on what the purpose of your own show was. But what frustrates me most is that if the intention was truly to show that some people can't change, the show shouldn't have made Chloe's redemption arc feel so real. She showed real growth, vulnerability, and improvement. If Queen Bee was only meant to be a role, the writing should have made it clearer that she wasn't taking heroism or self-improvement seriously. Instead, the show strongly suggested the opposite. The concept itself, that some people are incapable of change, is not inherently bad or uninteresting, but it wasn't successfully portrayed here. What Chloe's story actually showed us was that she could be vulnerable, that she wanted pure and innocent things, love, and that her downfall came from others exploiting those desires. Her darkness was cultivated. There's no denying that. That's very different from portraying her as someone who was always irredeemable. Because of what was actually presented on screen, I would have preferred a storyline that focused more heavily on Hawkmoth's manipulation of Chloe and the psychological damage it caused. Chloe didn't simply choose evil out of nowhere, she was targeted and exploited. The show unintentionally proves that no one is purely good or evil, and that darkness can be drawn out of anyone under the right circumstances. In that sense, Chloe is as much a victim as many of the other characters, and she deserved to be treated as such. She's a hurt child, and the narrative often ignores that. A more effective direction could have leaned into a fallen hero arc, which is something Hawkmoth himself explicitly calls her. Instead of making her crueler and more cartoonishly antagonistic, she could have lost her will to fight, or her belief in heroism altogether. If the goal was to show that some people can't change for the better, that message would have been far more powerful if it focused on the long-term effects of manipulation rather than erasing all of her development and making her worse than she ever was before. There are countless threads the show could have explored. Her mother's neglect, Hawkmoth's emotional abuse, and even Ladybug and Cat Noir's attempts to support her. All of these factors mattered, and yet they were brushed aside. This results in a lot of inconsistency and unequal treatment in how Chloe is written compared to other characters. Chloe became such a valuable asset to Hawkmoth precisely because he knew her secret identity and understood her flaws. This manipulation stretched across seasons 2 and 3 and even resurfaced in season 5. It effectively demonstrated why secret identities are so important. Once Hawkmoth knows who you are, he can weaponize you. Which is why the season 3 finale raises a massive issue. With Chloe's help, Hawkmoth learns the secret identities of every Miraculous holder. The stakes should have skyrocketed in season 4. Based on how successful Hawkmoth was with Chloe alone, this knowledge should have made him nearly unstoppable. And yet, he barely does anything with it. The only character who truly suffers the consequences of having her identity exposed is Chloe. Hawkmoth never attempts to manipulate the others in the same deeply personal way. It feels incredibly convenient that this tactic is only applied to her. Season 4 could have been far darker and more compelling if Hawkmoth used his knowledge of each hero's flaws the same way he did with Chloe. One might argue, maybe Thomas Astruc himself would, that Hawkmoth only targeted Chloe because she had the potential to be just as evil as him. But that doesn't mean the others were immune to manipulation. Every character has a defining flaw. Chloe's hunger for power, Kagami's obsession with perfection, Kim's cruelty disguised as humor, Milan's fear, Julika's insecurity. These flaws were already established, and they could have been exploited. Season 4 could have leaned into this by centering episodes around different Miraculous soldiers, with Shadowmoth attempting to manipulate them, or trick Ladybug into handing over their Miraculous, just as he did with Chloe. This would have been especially impactful given another major inconsistency. Ladybug continues to return Miraculouses to heroes who had their identities revealed. Kagami is the clearest example. She reveals her identity immediately, yet Ladybug repeatedly entrusts her with the Dragon Miraculous. While the behind-the-scenes explanation is probably that Tomoe wouldn't allow Gabriel to target her daughter, Ladybug doesn't know that. From her perspective, there's no logical reason Kagami should be treated differently than Chloe. Ultimately, there were countless ways Chloe's story and the broader narrative could have been handled better. Her arc had depth, potential, and emotional weight, but the show chose to overlook that, and that's why the storyline continues to be so controversial. Thomas Astruc has repeatedly stated that Chloe was never capable of change or redemption, but that claim directly contradicts what was shown on screen. And that contradiction is where most of the debate comes from. The main issue for Chloe fans isn't simply that she didn't get redeemed, it's that the show actively set up a redemption arc and then abruptly stripped it away. That arc energized the audience and turned Chloe into one of the most compelling and distinct characters in the series. A common comparison fans make when defending Chloe is Felix. Both characters come from similar backgrounds, exhibit manipulative or morally questionable behavior, and cause harm to others. Yet Felix receives a redemption while Chloe does not. Thomas Astruc's usual explanation is that Felix was willing to change, whereas Chloe wasn't. The problem with that reasoning is that Chloe did change. If the intention was to show that her growth was false or self-serving, the writing needed to make that clearer, because that is not how it came across. In fact, Chloe showed more consistent signs of growth before Felix ever did. Felix's redemption largely happens off-screen, with little to no exploration of the transition from villain to ally, which arguably makes his arc less earned than Chloe's, who was shown gradually improving over multiple episodes. I also want to point out how this logic applies to Marinette. I know my comparisons to Marinette are probably getting repetitive, but I think they're worth noting because they highlight a noticeable bias in how Chloe is treated. Thomas Astruc has implied that Chloe's good deeds are always motivated by selfishness or malice, but the same standard is rarely applied to Marinette. Take Marinette's feelings for Adrian. A significant portion of her behavior stems from insecurity, control, and fear. Motivations that are not entirely healthy, but there's a huge difference in how the narrative treats her versus Chloe. Marinette's actions are framed sympathetically, while Chloe's are framed as proof of her inherent evil. This makes it feel as though Chloe was less a fully realized character and more a convenient narrative tool, used to create a shocking Season 3 ending and give Hawkmoth a win, all at the expense of her redemption arc. Given Thomas Astruc's firm stance on Chloe, it seems unlikely that she will ever be portrayed in a more sympathetic or nuanced light again. Still, I hope that she's given an ending that feels fair, one that acknowledges the complexity of her character and gives her some justice.